With Wuthering Waves Closed Beta 2 being launched, we are finally able to see what the so-called Genshin killer is all about. Now, I played the game for about 4 hours and I found out immediately some stark differences between the two games. Let's go over the differences between Genshin and Wuthering Waves and which game has a better structure from the aspects of a beginner and an intermediate player. Before we get started, keep in mind that this is Closed Beta Test 2, so many things can and will change. While this is currently the state of the game, take these with a grain of salt. I really doubt that much will get worse on release, and you will only see improvements from what I'm about to mention here, so keep that in mind. 1. The movement. I immediately noticed that the movement in this game is different, and by movement I mean the climbing speed, how the character interacts with the environment. Firstly, climbing a huge mountain is very easy to do and won't take any time at all because you can actually just run up the walls. I did get stuck on this one wall and was able to run forever, which was pretty funny, but climbing is actually pretty awesome in this game, and you can still climb the traditional way, of course, and go slower. In addition, you know how when you use Elon, Sayu, Mona, and Aika, you can get stuck on a random ass rock or something? And even after they upgraded the movement system, it still happens every now and then. Well, in Wuthering Waves, you were able to immediately just run over small objects, and it looks very stylish when they do so. I really appreciate the design and running so far. And the best part, every character has access to vertical movement, or a Kazuha E on demand. Wuthering Waves actually has a use with its gadgets, and a quick loadout is already implemented to swap gadgets on the fly. You can use this rope to hop into the air every 10 seconds or so, which is actually amazing. You can use this in air as well, and you can use it while you're gliding. This is really fun to do. There's also an air hop that you can do, so when you're in air you can do more so an air dodge once when you leave the ground, which is really amazing here. And swimming is so fast. Do you see this speed? Immaculate. I'm so wet as I glide through this wall. Number 2, fall damage. In Genshin, if you trip and fall off of a 2-story building, you're dead. No ifs, ands, or buts. In Wuthering, if you trip and fall off a canyon that is 100 meters in the air and scream in fear as death looms right below you, you tank the hit and survive with half health. I really appreciate the fall damage being reduced, as falling in Genshin was pretty annoying, especially when you don't mean to fall. Number 3, you can skip the dialogue. I think this is still in the works, but you can indeed skip the dialogue. It is finicky right now and doesn't always work, but I have been able to skip a few parts. All you gotta do is just hold down the left click and you can skip it. It's insane how we strive for basic gaming rights in these gacha games nowadays, as every other game that I've played, with except maybe Pokemon, lets you skip dialogue. Number 4, infinite stamina. My biggest gripe in open world games is that they limit stamina when I'm not in combat. I'd like to be able to explore to my heart's content, but they say, hey, you can't run a 500-kilometer marathon without rest, but in Wuthering, you can. Outside of combat, stamina regenerates instantly and running does not actually deplete your stamina. Dodging will deplete your stamina, but you actually start regaining that stamina almost instantly. In combat, it is a lot more limited. It's actually impossible to run out of stamina while exploring. You also seem to regain stamina with perfect dodges, and I just remember in the early Genshin days thinking that stamina was a finite resource, but in Wuthering, I only really care about stamina when I'm in combat. That is a major plus. 5. The 4 stars are good. I haven't even gotten a 5-star yet and the 4 stars feel so good. Like, you get this healer for free, Baiji, and she heals your entire party with her E, and then she heals your entire party with her ult, and she's just a standard healer with no drawbacks. I can only imagine what a 5-star healer will do. Despite me not having a 5-star, I'm having a lot of fun with these 4 stars. The mechanics behind them are complex, and they feel like a Genshin 5-star as far as mechanically. I don't see any major downsides to their kit like most C0 4-star characters get when they're released nowadays. I was able to use a 5-star briefly, as in Ji-Yun, in a trial, and man, his combat was something else. Either way, the 4 stars seem great off-rip. I'll get more into details about specific 4 stars in a later video. Number 6, the NPCs are not generic. So far, I've seen many different NPCs that just look different and unique. I'm not sure if I'll eventually start to see Tepe number 98, but we will have to wait and see. Number 7, you can pet animals. Yes, you can pet dogs and cats, for those of you who really cared about that. Nice feature. I do hope it gets fleshed out because you don't actually pet them. They do a cute movement when you click this pet option, but still a step in the right direction. 8, the combat. Holy shit. The combat in this game is immaculate. Firstly, I'm not sure how this works yet, but when you have a symbol over your character on the swap menu, you swap to them, and not only will you instantly warp to the enemy, you and the character that you're swapping from will do a coordinated attack on the enemy. It's kinda crazy as you can warp across the map and do this. It's as if, these characters are actually working together. Guess what else? What I've been wanting for so long, you can lock on to targets. Yes, there's a lock on button, and it's the middle mouse button. You can lock on to targets and not have to worry about random targeting. Isn't that just wow? I honestly can't imagine that this is a feature in this game. Other than that, the combat is smooth and complex. For a beginner, it can still be fun. Just spam buttons, bro. But for those who really want to engage in this combat system, there is a way to do so. I still have to dive deep and really get into the mechanics of this game, so stay tuned for a basic combat guide in the future. Each character has about 6 different unique things they can do. All characters can plunge, all characters do a heavy attack, and each of these heavy attacks are actually unique. Normal attacks as well, and they have an E skill and a burst. And then you could just straight up summon a Pokemon. It can seem overwhelming, but random bullshit go works too. Including the swap attack, that's about 7 or more different things at your disposal for each character. It's just super satisfying when you play in the combat. And speaking of Pokemon! You can catch monsters at a certain chance. Every monster is catchable, and once you kill them, you'll see a little shadow of them, and then you can actually pull them into your Pokeball, I guess. This is called the Echo System, and I was very skeptical about the system at first, but I actually like it a lot. You can farm your own equipment by hunting monsters. I haven't run into a way to strictly farm them just by itself using stamina, but you're able to catch anything you kill at a certain rate. A friend of mine managed to get some that I didn't, and vice versa. You can also use these monsters during combat, and that's a plus. They'll either be summoned alongside you, or you actually transform into them to do a pretty big attack. I'm waiting to get the one for mobility so that I can zoom across the map. I'll explain the ecosystem more in a future video as well. It's still pretty crazy that these are considered your artifacts, and you can just kill monsters to get them. The main stat and substats are random, so that's going to be a pain in the ass, but at least you can farm for them without stamina. Now that we've talked about the game, let's talk about the gacha system, because this is a major point, and this is going to be number 10. So with the gacha system, it's set up to be identical to Genshin. There's a 50-50 and the wishes cost 160 each. That's about where the similarities end. There's a newbie banner, where all of the pulls are discounted, so while it's 50 pulls, it's actually 40 pulls, and you're guaranteed a 5-star. And as of recording, you have 3 options. I'm still on my way to get one of them, so we'll have to see who I get and who I can showcase later. Now, for limited characters and banners, the hard pity is 80, so I suspect that the soft pity will be around 65. Pretty nice to save 10 pulls for characters. And guess what? Weapons are guaranteed. There's no more 50-50, 70-30, 20-20, 0-1. It's guaranteed. You just get the weapon when you start wishing on it. That is amazing. For weapons, they have their own separate currency, but this is kind of a good thing in the long run because of this here. Each month, you get 6 of each types of wish. That's amazing, as you can literally just play the game and casually gain 6 weapon wishes per month, and then eventually you can get yourself a weapon. It's basically an extra 8 pulls a month daily, so I'll take it. The rates are also higher. There is a 0.8% chance to get a 5-star on either weapon or character, while the odds in Genshin is 0.6%. The odds are still very low, but in the long haul, it can make a difference. Now that we've talked about where Wuthering trumps Genshin, we can talk about the other way around. I've played Genshin for over 3 years, so honestly I'm very biased as Wuthering is just something brand new. However, I did notice a few things. 1. You can't auto-add items to enhance them for refinement. Honestly, I'm expecting this to be fixed pretty soon anyways, so whatever, but it's worth mentioning. The Genshin world has more wow scenery. The one thing Genshin has always done well is its very unique scenery when exploring. The thing is though, this is the first area in Wuthering Waves, so it isn't really a fair comparison, because Mondstadt and Liyue ain't that extravagant compared to the likes of Inazuma and Sumeru. So, in the future, I expect Wuthering to have similar concepts. Overall though, Wuthering takes on a more dark vibe as this is a post-apocalyptic world. Still, I am loving the world overall. And lastly, 3. The Genshin combat is simpler. The Wuthering combat can feel a bit overwhelming and it will take some getting used to. I don't know how endgame is, but when the difficulty starts to spike, I'm not sure how more casual players will respond. I love the combat system and it's an upgrade from Genshin's EQ swap meta, but this is not everyone's cup of tea. You can still just press random buttons, but I'm sure there is an optimal way to do things. I'm sure there are more differences where Genshin can compete or be slightly better, but that's honestly all I can think of for now. This is definitely my bias talking here, as I've had time to sit down and dissect Genshin for 3 years. With Wuthering, I've just been playing it for a few hours. Time will tell if more things I don't like about Wuthering will surface, but we'll have to wait and see. Feel free to ask questions below and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have about the current state of Wuthering Waves. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, as it's a win-win for the both of us and it will help YouTube know that this video doesn't suck. Be sure to subscribe for more Wuthering and Genshin content in the future as well. Until next time, Enigma out.